mean,
Yeah,
it was kind of like...
you pointed this out to me years ago, and it has always stuck with me that the oil companies started presenting themselves as the biggest advocates of solar and wind energy, when really this was just a cynical ploy to be like, look, we're getting energy out there. But they knew that there were orders of magnitude more energy coming out of every oil well in the world than any wind farm. And that's the path they chose, which was some kind, trying to stride the line between environmentalism and growth, and those two things probably always conflict.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that and that's what we've seen now in these cultural questions. The corporates themselves are willingly, they're saying, I mean, we're about to face a great economic catastrophe potentially because of coronavirus. I'm not blaming, it's had a very big impact on the world's economy. Many people will be destitute, facing unemployment, jobs being lost. And there's one big corporate that was sponsoring the festival that I run, and they've just cancelled. And they say, well, we're under enormous pressure, and I understand, we can't sponsor this year because of the impact of the virus on our workplace and so on. So I hear all this. I'm actually reasonably sympathetic, if disappointed, and think, well, I suppose, if you have to choose between sponsoring my event and somebody's job, I get it. And then the next day I heard that they were making a multi-million-pound donation to Black Lives Matters. And I just sat there and I just thought, a multi-pound donation, to Black Lives Matter and associated groups. And I thought, great. So you what you were giving me was absolutely back change in your pocket, and you couldn't afford it. And I was sympathetic because I thought, well, fair enough, we face a recession. But I mean, what I'm saying is that what kind of priorities are these in order to, they now are actively politically engaging on one side of the culture wars, and they didn't need to do that, did they? Nobody. I don't even know that they were asked. I can't blame Black Lives Matters or the associated different groupings that are involved in this. I can't blame them for the fact that the corporates keep handing them money. I mean, it's almost like, oh, awful. Anyway, so I find that distressing that things have gone in that way, because it also closes down debate. That's the main thing. If it was that a corporate decided that it wanted to support a particular group, and it could be Greenpeace or it could be anything else, I mean, that's fine, right? I mean, you run a company or you run it, that's fine. But when it becomes the only narrative that you're allowed to embrace, and that if you don't embrace it, that you're somehow treated as though you are a lesser human being, or that you are politically dodgy, that's when it becomes dangerous, because that's not just then kind of doing good works. That's a kind of enforced political outlook that's very narrow and actually demonizes anyone who doesn't go along with it.
Well, it comes across to me as religion, right? It comes across to me as, we have these beliefs about what morality really is and what you ought to do. And these things that are nebulous, that in ordinary modern society, we would say, hey, those are left up to you and your family and your church and your community, whatever. But now we're saying, not only am I going to publicly espouse these beliefs, but I'm going to force you to do it too. And if you don't, then you're not in the religion. You're an outcast. You're a heretic. And people forget, I think, because we've had such a long time with peace between religion and regular society, that when one group gets in control of deciding who's a heretic, you start running into some real dangerous times.
I agree. But that's also the thing is, in the modern era, we've understood, we got over the Reformation, we got over the religious wars, we thought, or largely in the modern Western world, and we would be in a situation whereby you had religious freedom. So you could be an atheist, but you could also be a Pentecostal, or you could be a Catholic, or you could be a Muslim, or you could be a Buddhist, or whatever, right? And you could and these were private matters. You publicly expressed them in terms of your personal morality and your going to church or praying or whatever way you chose to worship. But but as you say, in the medieval days, I mean, it's a bad history, but it was like, if you don't agree with this, you are a heretic and you will be burnt at the stake. Now, obviously, we're not burning people at the stake, or some parts of the world, sadly, that still kind of can happen. But broadly speaking, that is considered, that's why I call it regressive. That's what we think to be in an unenlightened time. But we are now in a situation where morally, you're absolutely right. It does feel like heresy to go against what is then this kind of demand that you publicly acclaim something. By the way, I think that was summed up by that slogan that's just emerged recently, which is silence is violence. Now that's an extraordinary slogan, because what that says is you're not even allowed to just keep quiet. You have to say that you agree. You have to wear the badge. You are enforced to take the knee. You have to put the black, I mean, I know people who work for major arts organizations in this country who were reprimanded for not having a black square around their Instagram. So they didn't do anything, but they didn't want to play some black square around Instagram, virtue signaling game. And they were reprimanded by managers for not doing that, because it would bring the organization into disrepute. And these are major arts organizations in the UK. I mean, atrocious. So that's like heresy, isn't it? You are a heretic.
Thanks for checking out this podcast short. If you're interested in the subjects that we're talking about, or the idea of how do you get better at communications, you may want to consider joining the Articulate Ventures Network. There, listeners like you can meet other listeners from all over the world. You can put up talks that you've given to ask for feedback and ways to improve, and you can even take courses that'll help you become a tangibly better communicator. That's the Articulate Ventures Network with the link below.